It was altogether unbecoming conduct in Rachel to dispose thus of her husband. She gained a dudaim, but she lost 2 tribes. If she had acted otherwise, she would have borne 4 sons instead of 2. And she suffered another punishment: her body was not permitted to rest in the grave beside her husband's. Jacob came home from the field after night had fallen, for he observed the law obliging a day laborer to work until darkness sets in, and Jacob's zeal in the affairs of Laban was as great in the last 7 years after his marriage as in the first 7, while he was serving for the hand of Rachel. When Leah heard the braying of Jacob's ass, she ran to meet her husband, and without giving him time to wash his feet, she insisted upon turning aside into her tent. At first Jacob refused to go, but God compelled him to enter, for unto God it was known that Leah acted from pure disinterested motives. Her dudaim secured 2 sons for her: Issachar, the father of the tribe that devotes itself to study of the Torah, whence his name meaning reward, and Zebulun, whose descendants carry on commerce, using their profits to enable their brethren of Issachar to keep at their studies. Leah called this last-born son of hers Zebulun, dwelling place, for she said, "Now will my husband dwell with me, seeing that I have borne him 6 sons, and also the sons of Zebulun will have a goodly dwelling place in the Holy Land." Leah bore once more, and this last time it was a daughter, a man-child turned into a woman by her prayer. When she conceived for the 7th time, she spake as follows: God promised Jacob 12 sons. I bore him 6, and each of the 2 handmaids has borne him 2. If now I were to bring forth another son, my sister Rachel will not be equal even unto the handmaids. Therefore she prayed to God to change the male embryo in her womb into a female, and God hearkened unto her prayer. Now all the wives of Jacob, Leah, Rachel, Zilpah, and Bilhah, united their prayers with the prayer of Jacob, and together they besought God to remove the curse of barrenness from Rachel. On New Year's Day, the day whereon God sits in judgment upon the inhabitants of the earth, he remembered Rachel and granted her a son. And Rachel spake, God hath taken away my reproach. For all the people had said that she was not a pious woman, else had she borne children. And now that God had hearkened to her, and opened her womb, such idle talk no longer had any reason. By bearing a son, she had escaped another disgrace. She had said to herself, Jacob hath a mind to return to the land of his birth, and my father will not be able to hinder his daughters, who have borne him children, from following their husbands thither with their children. But he will not let me, the childless wife, go too, and he will keep me here and marry me to one of the uncircumcised. She said furthermore, As my son hath removed my reproach, so Joshua his descendant will roll away reproach from the Israelites, when he circumcises them beyond Jordan. Rachel called her son Joseph Increase, saying, God will give me an additional son. Prophetess as she was, she foresaw she would have a second son. But an increase added on by God is larger than the original capital itself. Benjamin, the second son, whom Rachel regarded merely as a supplement, had 10 sons, while Joseph begot only 2. Had Rachel not used the form of expression, the Lord add to me another son, she herself would have begotten 12 tribes with Jacob. The Legends of the Jews, Volume 1 by Rabbi Louis Ginsburg. Jacob flees before Laban. Jacob had only been waiting for Joseph to be born to begin preparations for his journey home. The Holy Spirit had revealed to him that the house of Joseph would work the destruction of the house of Esau, and therefore Jacob exclaimed at the birth of Joseph, Now I need not fear Esau or his legions. About this time, Rebekah sent her nurse Deborah, the daughter of Uz, to accompany 2 of Isaac's servants to Jacob, to urge him to return to his father's house now that his 14 years of service had come to an end. Then Jacob approached Laban and spoke, Give me my wives and my children, that I may go unto mine own place, and to my country, for my mother has sent messengers unto me, bidding me to return to my father's house. Laban answered, saying, Oh, that I might find favor in thine eyes! By a sign it was made known unto me that God blesseth me for thy sake. What Laban had in mind was the treasure he had found on the day Jacob came to him, and he considered it a token of his beneficent powers. Indeed, God had wrought many a thing in the house of Laban that testified to the blessings spread abroad by the pious. Shortly before Jacob came, a pest had broken out among Laban's cattle, and with his arrival it ceased. And Laban had no son, but during Jacob's sojourn in Haran sons were born unto him. All the hire he asked in return for his labor and for the blessings he had bought Laban was the speckled and spotted among the goats of his herd, and the black among the sheep. Laban assented to his conditions, saying, Behold, I would it might be according to thy word. The arch-villain Laban, whose tongue wagged in all directions, and who made all sorts of promises that were never kept, judged others by himself, and therefore suspected Jacob of wanting to deceive him. And yet, in the end, it was Laban himself who broke his word. No less than 100 times he changed the agreement between them. Nevertheless, his unrighteous conduct was of no avail. Though a 3 days' journey had been set betwixt Laban's flocks and Jacob's, the angels were wont to bring the sheep belonging to Laban down to Jacob's sheep, and Jacob's droves grew constantly larger and better. Laban had given only the feeble and sick to Jacob, yet the young of the flock raised under Jacob's tendance were so excellent in quality that people bought them at a heavy price. And Jacob had no need to resort to the peeled rods. He had but to speak, and the flocks bare according to his desire. What Laban deserved was utter ruin, for having permitted the pious Jacob to work for him without hire, and after his wages had been changed 10 times, and 10 times Laban had tried to overreach him, God rewarded him in this way. But his good luck with the flocks was only what Jacob deserved. Every faithful laborer is rewarded by God in this world, quite regardless of what awaits him in the world to come. With empty hands Jacob had come to Laban, and he left him with herds numbering 600,000. The increase had been marvelous, an increase that will be equaled only in the Messianic time. The wealth and good fortune of Jacob called forth the envy of Laban and his sons, and they could not hide their vexation in their intercourse with him. And the Lord said unto Jacob, Thy father-in-law's countenance is not toward thee as beforetime, and yet thou tarriest with him? Do thou rather return unto the land of thy fathers, and there I will let my Shekinah rest upon thee. For I cannot permit the Shekinah to reside outside the Holy Land. Immediately Jacob sent the fleet messenger Naphtali to Rachel and Leah to summon them to a consultation, and he chose as the place of the meeting the open field, where none could overhear what was said. His 2 wives approved the plan of returning to his home, and Jacob resolved at once to go away with all his substance, without as much as acquainting Laban with his intention. Laban was gone to shear his sheep, and so Jacob could execute his plan without delay. That her father might not learn about their flight from his teraphim, Rachel stole them, and she took them and concealed them upon the camel upon which she sat, and she went on. And this is the manner they used to make the images. They took a man who was the firstborn, slew him, and took the hair off his head, then salted the head and anointed it with oil. Then they wrote the name upon a small tablet of copper or gold and placed it under his tongue. The head with the tablet under the tongue was then put in a house where lights were lighted before it, and at the time when they bowed down to it, it spoke to them on all matters that they asked of it, and that was due to the power of the name which was written upon it. End of chapter 6, part 7.